Hello and welcome to this video that explains the project that we'll undertake in Unit 3, which is developing an explanation presentation for an audience of people in your field. So let's say you are in computer science or nursing. You're going to take a piece of what we wrote for weeks 2 and 3 when you were writing about technical writing in your field, and you're going to expand that and create basically a set of explanations about tech writing to an audience. So how do you do that? What I would like you to focus on, just like with Units 1 and Units 2, are really thinking about your audience. What will your audience need to know to answer the question, how do I do that? So if, for example, your explanation has something to do with technical writing for your workplace, you'll pick one particular document that your colleagues might be writing and you'll create a presentation that walks them step by step through that, whatever that might be. So if you think about it in a workspace, what you might be doing is something like the image here. You might be standing up in front of a presentation space with a slide deck behind you, talking through what you want your audience to learn or know. The difference between this project and that we're going to do in 3326 and the image that you see here is that because we're an online class, you obviously are not going to be in the same time and space to stand up in front of us and give this presentation. Instead, what you'll do is create a PowerPoint or a Google slide or a keynote presentation as if you were about to present it in this kind of format. And instead, you're going to think about how it might be received in this kind of format. So we're all interconnected through the internet. We're going to be able to see each other's presentations as basically slides plus notes. So we'll be reviewing your presentation as people at a distance looking at your presentation instead of this previous image, which is you giving it live. The benefit is that if you do have to give a live presentation, the project that we're going to do now is going to prepare you for either a live presentation scenario or creating a presentation that might be posted to something like SlideShare. So let's say, for example, you have a LinkedIn account and someday you want to create a portfolio of presentations you've done professionally. You can actually record your presentation using something like I have right now, which is ScreenFlow, or you could create a PowerPoint recording through this tutorial service and post this on YouTube. But what we're going to do for this class is basically up to the point of recording. We're going to just create the slide deck and then have like a notes feature underneath it that will help us to develop out what we're going to see on the screen. So some of you have probably done PowerPoint presentations before. This might look like a familiar scenario. What you might do is say, okay, I have to do a presentation. I'm going to pull up PowerPoint. There's a title slide. There's kind of some text that directs you through how to add bullet points. There's a little feature here in the middle that might encourage you to add visuals. But basically, starting this way is how most people do it. Instead of thinking through the audience and what they need, they open the presentation software and then try to figure out what it is they're going to put in it. So this is what those PowerPoints actually end up looking like. And this is actually a textbook we used to use in this course. And this was what they provided as an example of how to do a PowerPoint presentation. And the funny part of this is exactly what I don't want your presentations to look like. But if you look at this kind of a template, like I brought up in PowerPoint, it kind of directs you to do this kind of a PowerPoint presentation. It has a title area, it has bullet points, and it kind of encourages you to just put your presentation, the words of your presentation, up on the screen. And what that ends up doing is leads you to reading off of a slide and putting your audience to sleep. Basically like this. You see titles, you see bullets, underneath those bullets you see text. It's easy to do this because you can just insert points and walk through it, but your audience isn't going to get much out of it. And here's why. Here are the challenges, and I know that all of you have sat through presentations, perhaps this presentation, where you don't necessarily want to pay attention. This slide gives us some reasons, some challenges. This might be part of your presentation that you have a little bit of text that you explain. But basically what you want to avoid is these kinds of challenges. That readers resist reading instructions. So if you're walking through in a PowerPoint or a presentation and it's just reading step by step, readers are going to tune out. First of all, they think they can come back later and get the information, or they're just not that interested in reading off of a screen. Readers also will turn into instructions only after all other efforts fail. And I know you've experienced this. You try to figure out a website, you don't go to the help system until the very last possible moment. And readers want to be able to understand everything immediately without having to read anything twice. And there's actually a little bit of science that says that readers in a presentation will have trouble if they're having to read off of the screen and listen to you reading off of the screen. It's a cognitive processing problem. It's easier for you to have an image up on the screen and explain the image or how the image relates to what you're describing instead. So here's how we're going to meet these challenges. Thinking about our audience first. How will the audience respond to what we're telling them? Are they going to be hesitant or reactive to what you're trying to get them to do? Are they going to be in this session excited about learning something new that's going to help them in their job? So kind of think about the attitude that your audience is going to bring to the information that you're going to share with them. And then what we're going to work through in Unit 3 is this kind of a same process that we did in Unit 2. We're going to start with that kind of audience. Think of yourself standing in front of a room of colleagues at a job, or think of yourself giving a teleconference if your organization does teleconferences, who those people are on the other end and what you want them to walk away with. You might want to say, I want you to be able to create a basic PowerPoint. And you're going to give an example and walk them through creating a PowerPoint that they would use to communicate. It could be a set of intake records. Here's how you write a good intake. If you're a nurse or if you're a counselor or if you're a social worker. Here's how you write a particular document that explains software to our client. So think about the audience analysis and the statement of purpose before you even get started. We're going to do work on that in this week 8 of the class. I had a hard time thinking what week it was. And then next week we're going to work on outlining and storyboarding. And they're put as 2 different bullets here, but I'd like you to think about them together. So you'll basically outline the parts that you're going to walk them through in the process, kind of like we did for the recommendation report in Unit 2. And then I want you to find some visuals to match up to that outline. And the visuals aren't going to be exactly the explanations of the process necessarily, but they'll be something that you either create or find that helps your audience to focus their attention on the screen while you walk through the process of giving them the process. Then we're going to work on presenter notes, which is basically a speaking script. So you're actually going to write out word for word what you would say if you were giving this presentation and put this in the presenter notes area of PowerPoint, Keynote, or Google Slides. And then finally, we're going to get some feedback and revise this before we do a final PDF of the presentation. So you'll get some audience feedback, hopefully in roughly major related groups. So I'm going to try to put you as much as possible with other people who might actually be getting this were you giving it to a group of your colleagues. So that's a really brief overview of the explanation assignment. I'm going to have a couple other videos that walk you through the process of outlining and storyboarding. But for this week 1, we're going to talk about audience analysis and a statement of purpose. So read the remainder of the materials at the website and please let me know if you have any questions.